All right, guys, it's time for the Next Level Guy Show, a men's interview, interest, and improvement-focused podcast featuring interviews with the greats from all industries to help you better your life. Each week, a new episode features an interview with one of the greats, covering all aspects of their story, from life hacks to tips and protocols that have allowed them to live life on the next level. We then highlight concrete action steps that you can use to improve your life. And now, your host, Ian Dawson Mackay.
And today's guest is the BJJ legend, that is Bernardo Faria. It's a huge honour for me to feature Bernardo Rocha de Faria, who is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competitor and instructor. His bio is simply amazing. A 4-time World Jiu-Jitsu Champion, he's won the European Championship, the Pan American Championship, and Brazilian National Championships. He now runs a juggernaut of a BJJ learning platform known as BJJ Fanatics, where you can find an instructional from elite athletes that will help you improve your jiu-jitsu game in all areas from training, game style, mindset, and so much more. He's become a living legend in the sport. He's been ranked first in the IBJJF World Rankings of all divisions, and in 2015 was chosen as the best jiu-jitsu athlete. Faria received his black belt from instructor Ricardo Marques in 2008 and moved to Alliance Jiu Jitsu Sao Paulo team to train with mestre Fábio Gurgel in 2009. In June 2022, he was honoured into the IBJJF Hall of Fame. Bernardo currently runs his own Jiu-Jitsu academy in Bedford, Massachusetts. He's also a member of the Alliance Jiu Jitsu team and Marcelo Garcia Association. I'm a massive fan also of his YouTube channel, BJJ Fanatics, where he regularly posts techniques alongside other elite Jiu-Jitsu practitioners and MMA fighters, such as Dean Lister, John Danaher and Gordon Ryan. And now, let's get to the interview. Well, thank you so much for agreeing to come on. You have no idea how much this means to me, but for the few people who maybe don't recognise you, and I doubt there will be many, could you give a quick introduction and why you're a legend in the sport of Jiu-Jitsu?
Yeah, so my name is Bernardo Faria, and I started Jiu-Jitsu when I was 14 years old. And in 2009, I got my black belt. And from 2009 until nowadays, I was able to win 5 world championships as a black belt. And in 2015, I won what they call like the double gold, which I was like the best athlete for that year. In all divisions together. So I won my division and I won the open class, which is the open division. And that was the best year of my career. And then in 2000, at the end of 2014, we started one website. And in 2016, we started the website called BJJ Fanatics, which nowadays is the biggest platform for instructional videos, for martial arts instructional videos. And we have filmed with over 900 instructors and some very big names like Mike Tyson, Khabib, and many others like John Danaher, Gordon Ryan. And I think that's who Bernardo is.
I mean, I've spent a considerable amount of money on some of your instructionals. They are awesome. The quality is amazing. But did you feel initial pressure? Because you grew up in a family of academics. You were wanting to go into, was it civil engineering you were going to go into?
Yeah, so my whole family in Brazil, it's one of those very traditional families that most of my cousins and everybody either become like a doctor or engineer or dentist or lawyer, something like that, so probably like the biggest challenge I faced in my career was this. Like when I was 14 years old, I started doing jiu-jitsu. And when I was 15 or 16, that time that you start thinking about what you're going to do for college and this and that, I had already decided that I would do jiu-jitsu for a living. And so my whole family was against it. And it was a little bit of a soap opera. And I loved them, but it was just like a challenge to convince them that sport could become something like.
I love how like something as small as what a parent wants you to do could have completely changed the futures of so many jiu-jitsu athletes in particular. Because
Yeah.
when I look at the number of people whose abilities you have changed over the years, you're a Hall of Famer, you do these amazing things. But when you initially approached it, what was the method of teaching you had? Was it the Roger Gracie become legendary at the fundamentals? Because you're well known as like a god of fundamentals. Or did you look at it as, I'm going to just keep trying this because I enjoy it? Did you have a kind of game plan of learning it and developing
Yeah,
your skills?
it kind of happened naturally, but I became the type of athlete that it's not great on everything. I was like good on everything, but I had like two, three, or four techniques that were my techniques, like, and I would do the same techniques against everybody on every match. So I became very specialized on a few moves, and I would use those moves against everybody on every single match. And for who is familiar with jiu-jitsu, that was the half guard when I was on bottom, and was the over under pass when I was on top.
Yeah.
And I love the quote from Bruce Lee that he says that you should not fear the one who knows 1,000 techniques, but you should fear the one who knows one technique and has practiced 1,000 times. And that was like one of my favorite quotes.
Because I think I've seen a flow grappling video with you, and it was like your highlights. And in the early stages of your career, it was you took them in over underpass, slotted into the knee bar, win. It was just like you made it look so easy. I mean, I purchased your jiu-jitsu for old guys, where you're over under pressure passing. Phenomenal. It works every time, and it's like this is designed for old farts like me. Like fat farts. It is amazing. So how have you found a way of learning and developing your skills? Because you do it with so much flair and fun for life. But have you found a way that makes it like small, big returns from small investments? Is there a style of learning that suits you?
Yeah, and I think like when I started jiu-jitsu, I kind of like quickly realized that jiu-jitsu was very broad. So there was like thousands of techniques to learn, like hundreds of subjects.
Mhm.
And in the beginning, I did what everybody does, like try to learn a little bit of everything. But I was not seeing much progress doing that. And then when I started becoming good on one technique or so, instead of trying to use everything, I was just trying to use that technique over and over and over and over and over. And then you start developing other techniques and details around that technique. So it's almost like you mentioned like investing, right? So it's almost like you decide that you're going to become an investor, then you decide that you're going to invest on real estate, and then you decide that you're going to become like a professional investor on commercial real estate, and then you decide that you're going to become a professional investor in commercial real estate between this range and this range, and then you decide on this type of city, on this type of, so you go narrow, 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 until to the point that you were better than everybody on that specific aspect, like. So that was a quick analogy here that I just made it as you talk about investing, for example.
No, I love it. I mean, and do you think that's why? Because I mean, if anybody says over underpass, you're the first name. You become synonymous with that style of play. That kind of like people. As soon as you see you locked in the half guard, people are just like, well, you may as well just wait till he decides what he's doing. As soon as you decide you're over underpass, he's going to pass. Let's see what he's going with. Did you just repeat these things in training so much? Like, were you like a repetition learner, or did you just concentrate?
Yeah, it was not so much on drilling. I was never like the type of guy who drills a lot. It was more like on training. Like, for example, I would train against everybody and force my way to get the over under pass. So if they use the butterfly guard, I would go to the over under from the butterfly guard. If they play close guard, I would figure out how to go to the over under pass from the close guard. If they play lasso guard, how can I go to the over under from the lasso guard? So I was always building ways in my mind to get on that specific position for every other position, like. So that's kind of like what I did. And again, that happened naturally. Like I'm not pretending here that I'm very smart and that I figured out something. I just noticed that I was doing it, And instead of like giving up and start training a bunch of other techniques, I just kept doing what I was doing, like.
I mean, your over under like series passing, that was amazing. I couldn't understand how you could get into so many positions. You're like, if they do Lasso guard, this is how we pass. If they do spider guard, this is how you get to it. And I was like, this is amazing. It's so analytical, it's methodical, and you can see it step by step. Do you think your sort of interest in engineering and mathematics, was that part of it? Did it give you this kind of analytical mindset, do you think?
I always had some sort of like analytical mindset since I was a very young kid. For example, when I was on school, math was always like my favorite subject. I always
not for me.
Really, and it's funny that many times when I was competing in jiu-jitsu, there are scores, right? Like you score 2 points for sweep, 4 points for if you get the mount, 2 points for takedown, 3 points if you pass the guard. Many times during the match, I was doing some math in my mind. So for example, if I'm winning by 5 points versus 2. In my mind, I was like, the only thing that cannot happen here is he taking my back, because he would score 4 points. So I would protect everything I could to not let. So I was always like playing numbers in my mind, even when I was competing, so I do have some analytical mindset for sure, but I don't know how much that contributed to the over-under or the half.
Because I do really love that video where you're caught in a toe hold and you're looking at the clock and it's like 8 seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
You're just like in your head, I'm not screaming, I'm just letting it go. And it's amazing how chill you look.
Yeah, that was one of the most important matches I ever had. So was the very finals of the Worlds in 2015. And I was winning by points, by a lot of points. So in my mind, I was like, the only thing that cannot happen here is a submission. And then 8 seconds left, my opponent attacked my foot with a toe hold. So in my mind, I was like, I can resist any pain in the world for 8 seconds. I'm not going to tap. I'm going to keep that type of like a regular face, not emotions. Because in jiu-jitsu, if for some reason you scream, that's considered a tap. Okay. So I was like, I cannot scream, I cannot tap, and I cannot change my face to make sure that the referee doesn't think that I'm screaming. So it was a fun moment.
So when when you look at your list of results, it's like gold everywhere. You're like $1 million man. You've got gold, basically the whole way down it. How do you start your game plan for this? Is it like you were saying earlier where you would actually go in and think, doesn't really matter what you're doing, I'm going to get you into this position. I'll just maneuver you into that position and then take you where I need you to go?
Yeah, so I see like some very, very, very high level athletes. Like I would almost say like that most of the extraordinary people that I know, like I'm talking about like Roger Gracie, Gordon Ryan, Khabib, they have a mindset. Marcelo Garcia, they have a mindset that it's almost like nobody's good. It's in their minds, they never imagined themselves losing. I was not like that. I didn't have that confidence. So I was more like, I built my confidence on my way, I never felt that they would never lose, and I wish I was like that. Maybe I would even go further. So I'm just saying, but in my mind,
you did very well.
No, but these guys did even better than me, I think. But I was always the type of guy that I built my confidence. Like every tournament I won, I got a little more confident to the next tournament. I wish I was like Roger, Gordon, Marcelo, Khabib, that they don't see themselves losing. I really admired those people, but I wasn't like that. So I had to figure out my way to win, to achieve what I achieved. And I think was a lot about building the confidence. Was a lot by like little by little winning this tournament, believing that I can win the next tournament. Then I got second in the next tournament. But I was like, man, it was almost, I can do this. Then I won the other one. Then I was like, oh, I think so. It was, to me, it was like almost like a letter, step by step type of thing.
Okay. I mean, that's what I loved when I was listening to you. I think it was the Flow Grappling video, and you were saying how you didn't believe in yourself until purple belt. And, you felt like you were facing yourself when you were going into these things. And that's the way I feel. Like, I struggle with believing in myself. I always give too much credit to my opponent. Was that how you did it? The incremental changes?
Was the increment in my case? It was the incremental changes, like, because I am exactly what you described it, like, I never believe on myself 100%, like, I can always picture, I'm kind of like optimist enough that I can beat everybody, but I'm also pessimist enough that I can lose to anybody. So I was always like in this middle, and then I had to, when I used to go to compete, I almost had two voices in my head. Like, one was like, "You can do this. You're gonna win. There's no way you're gonna lose today." And there was another voice here that was like, "Ay, ay, ay, that guy stuff. You get ready." Like, I don't know if you.
Oh, yeah.
So I had to battle those two voices and force myself to listen more this one than this one. Because.
And where did that confidence come from? Was it literally just kind of, I almost got that guy, I got him into my position here? Did you start looking at losses as a learning achievement rather than because I used to moan about it the whole weekend. It would destroy my confidence if I tapped silly things like that, Did you start looking at losses as a, right, I'm going to work on this, I'm going to work on that, and look for gaps to fill in your game?
Yeah, so I think if I had to point one thing in my entire career, in the jiu-jitsu career, now even like in the business, that I really admire on myself is like work ethic. Like, so I keep my work ethic no matter what. Like, so if I'm gonna compete this weekend and I'm gonna lose in the first match, on Monday I'm gonna show up in the 12 o'clock class and I'm gonna show up in the 6 o'clock class when I was competing, right? And if I won the tournament, I'm gonna do the same thing. Actually, I always gave myself, before the tournament I would rest for 2 days, and after the tournament I would rest for 2 or 3 days as well, just so I could recover. But so for example, on Tuesday I would train no matter what, if I lost or if I won. And I think the same thing in business, like if we had like a bad month or bad deal, or if something wrong is happening, I'm gonna wake up next day and I'm gonna do exactly the same thing that I would do if things were going well. Like, so I always try to stay stable on my work ethic. Like, this is like I think the one thing that I look backwards and I see like a parameter in my life on every years of my career, and this and that. Like.
And where do you think that comes from? Is that from like your parents? Do you think seeing like initially when your dad said you can go and do jiu-jitsu, but that's up to, you've got to make it work. And then when you were talking of coming out of it, they said, okay, we'll pay you room and board. You've gone far enough that we think you can do it. Do you think their encouragement, seeing what they had done previously?
I think it's a group of things. So for example, since the start of my career in jiu-jitsu, I always had a lot of pressure on me, right? Because I had to make that thing happen. Like, I was the only one in my family that was like going against the traditional path, right? Like, becoming this type of profession and this and that. And I never knew if I would make it happen. Like, jiu-jitsu was pretty small at that time. Now it's a big sport and this and that. And even being a big sport, you know how hard it is to make to the top. Like, so I had a lot of pressure on myself. And I was lucky to have great examples in my life. So, for example, I grew up seeing my dad leaving my house 8 a.m. and coming back 8 p.m. And I grew up seeing my mom. My mom was like, she didn't work. She was a mom of 3 kids. But she was that type of person that from the time she woke up until the time she goes to sleep, she was doing something to us. Like, she was bring us to school, picking up to school, go to the dances, go to the soccer, come back, bring this one to the house, the friend's house, go. So she was always like working to us, right? And she was doing like what she was supposed to do. So those 2 examples. Then when I started jiu-jitsu, my first instructor, Ricardo Marques, I never saw in my life, and I was there from 2001 to 2009. I never saw him skipping one class in 9 years. never. I maybe he never got sick, or maybe he would go there sick teach anyways. And I saw like relatives dying, and in the day of the funeral, he would still go there and teach the class, and so I never saw him missing like one jiu-jitsu class, like to teach us, like so. And then I went to train Fábio Gurgel, and I think he's probably the most professional jiu-jitsu school owner and jiu-jitsu instructor. And then I moved to New York City and went to train under Marcelo Garcia, which is the most disciplined and almost like paranoid athlete that I ever saw in my life. Like he is that type of guy that he's gonna do everything perfect for his career, like. And then my business partners as well, both Michael Zhang and Michael Reardon, they are very like straightforward as well, and this and that. So I always had great examples in my life, like. So I think that, and that was just lucky, like, and don't it's not my credit here, like, because I was lucky to have those guys, this type of people around me, like.
Well, they do say you're the average of the 5 people that you're around, and I mean, to have such a phenomenal set of parents and business partners. I mean, you've worked with some amazing people over the years, and I liked how you decided you wanted to up your level of jiu-jitsu, so you went to Marcelo Garcia. It was just like, as you do, just
Yeah.
you always seem to be pushing yourself. What do you think you've learned from working with so many phenomenal people? Have you kind of like what have you noticed in the similarities with the elites of jiu-jitsu? Is there certain ways they behave, their behaviors, their techniques, etc.?
Yeah, so I think like being around the best people, it's almost like it's not guaranteed where you're gonna get, where you're gonna go, but it's almost like guaranteed that might be really hard to fail. Like that's kind of how I think. Because when I look backwards in my career, I think the two most important decisions that I made in my life was one to move from my hometown to São Paulo to train under Fábio Gurgel, which was the best jiu-jitsu school at that time, and two to move from São Paulo to New York City to train under Marcelo Garcia and be in the United States, because I believe that the best economy in the world is the United States still. So you were around the best people, not the best people, but you are in the best market. So I think when you are in the best market with the right people, it's really hard to fail. Like, so I don't even know if I would be, even if I didn't build BJJ Fanatics, for example. I think things would go right in my life because those two decisions. Because I went to São Paulo, I built my jiu-jitsu career, then I went to Marcelo, I learned from him, my jiu-jitsu career got even deeper, and I was in the United States legally. New York City is one of the best places in the world to build network, and you see, like, I met my business partner because I was living in New York and he was living in Boston, so was kind of like almost like the network, and then we started BJJ Fanatics. So I think being around the best people, it's one of the most essential things in life. And I have a daughter, and this is what I want to teach her. If she tells me like, "Oh, I want to become a painter," let's research who are the best painters in the world. Go reach out to them, tell them that you want to work for free, do whatever you need, but be around those people. You're going to become the best painter quick, like.
I mean, you've got this amazing lust for life. You're so happy. You're always smiling. How do you juggle the, training, running your academy, then you bounce into the BJJ Fanatics, then you're being a family man, you're taking your wife out on dates, you seem to be absolutely besotted by your wife. You're an amazing father. You're doing all these amazing things. How do you juggle these conflicting demands? Because you must be knackered doing jiu-jitsu. I crawl out of training sometimes. How do you keep this juggernaut moving?
I think like it's gonna look like cliche, but it's what everybody says, right? When you do something that you love, that you have passion about it, it's much less hard. It's still very hard, but it's much less hard. And I mean, like some days looks like I'm always happy, but I'm like everybody. Some days I'm in a bad mood as well, and this and that. But I try to keep most of my days and most of my time happy. And there is a quote that I love that is like, sadness doesn't pay the bills. So I mean, like, just being sad is not going to help you much. So I try
That's
to
very
just
true.
like, as long as I'm waking up healthy, and I can do what I want to do, I think every day is a new opportunity, like, so I try to be to just be happy.
I
Like,
like it. I like it. I mean, those two decisions you made when you left to Sao Paulo and when you went to to America, these were like life changing, like massive steps. How did you overcome the fear? Did you just look at it as in this is analytical, I need to do these things, I need to be surrounded by the best people, so this is where I need to go? Did you struggle initially to overcome that fear of leaving? What would you say to somebody in a similar situation?
yeah, I mean, like, for example, when I moved to São Paulo, for example, uh, financially was not the best decision, because was hard, right? I was moving to a big city without income. Then my dad helped for a little bit, but I think, like, anytime you're taking those very, 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 very big decisions in life, like what are you gonna do next, where are you going, who you're gonna marry, and this and that, I think those times it's better to feel like your heart than to try to be analytical, like, because
Yeah.
yeah, when I was moving to São Paulo, for example, if I would put in the paper everything, like where I would live, how much it would cost, how comfortable that would be, because I was living with a bunch of fighters on a very small apartment, sharing rooms, like literally, like the guy nearby me used to snore a lot. I'm like, don't put everything in the paper because you're gonna end up giving up, like. But
Hmm.
something was telling me that São Paulo was the best place. My heart was kind of telling me, like, this is the do this, like, this is. And kind of like same thing when I moved to New York City as well, because I went to live in Harlem with an apartment with a bunch of fighters, and so if you keep thinking like about how comfortable that it's gonna be, uh, how much I'm gonna make, you start. I think that those very big decisions, I think it's better to follow like your heart. Like, are you doing what you love to do, and so that's kind of like how I try to think.
Because I mean, you said once that you like to attack it when you compete. The first thing you're thinking is, I'm not going to let them come at me. I'm just going to go straight at them. I'm going to. It's almost like you roar like a lion and chase them down and really push at them. Do you think that's also what you do in life? You kind of, I'm going to attack. I'm going to do this first. I'm not even going to let myself get a chance to be scared. I'm going to do this because it's the best thing for me.
Yeah. So my whole thing is to make sure that I did my very, very best that I could. Like, and this is a challenge between being a professional athlete and business, because business is not always whoever does the best wins. Like, it's a lot about being smart as well and seeing how you spend your time. Like, but as a professional athlete, it was a little simpler. It was like, I have to train as hard as I can, and when it's time to compete, I don't care who I'm competing with. I'm gonna put all my sweat over there, and I'm gonna go as hard as I can for that time, and I'm gonna make sure that I prepare enough
Hmm.
to be able to go as hard as I can from the first second to the last second. Like, and I try to do the same thing in business as well, but in business you need to plan even better. Like, because just waking up and working all day long until the time you go to sleep doesn't necessarily means that you're doing the right thing. Like, so this is a little different between both.
So how do you sort of look at your opponents then? Like, when you were coming up and facing like these amazing champions, the elite of the elite, how did you just stop giving them the credit and think, yeah, right, I'm just going to get you, take you down, and I'm going to go into here. I'm going to attack first. Going against the traditional, like, rookie letting the master come to them kind of thing. How did you work that kind of game plan? Like, how do you stop giving credit to your opponents and let it be a battle of you v you? but also give yourself credit to be the person you know you can be?
Yeah, so to me, and it's almost like irrational. So don't take it and say that this is right. But to me, I was literally like building my confidence as I went, right? So, for example, many times it would happen that I beat this guy that beat that other guy over there that I thought was much better than me. So in my mind, now wait a second, if I beat this guy that beat him, why can I not beat him? Like so. So that's kind of like how I always try to think, and that doesn't mean that it's right, because in jiu-jitsu many times I beat you, you beat him, and he beats me. That happens quite often, and
Yep.
but I use that just as a way to build my confidence. Like, wait a second, if I beat Ian and Ian beat uh, John, why can I not beat John? Like, or maybe like if I won this tournament as a purple belt, and most of the people who wins by purple belt wins by as a brown belt, why can I not win as a brown belt? Like if I won this tournament as a brown belt, and most of the people that wins as a brown belt wins as a black belt, why can I not win as a black belt? So I always had these conversations with myself, and but many times as well I would lose matches that I didn't think I would lose. Like, so I also had that in my mind that okay, I can lose to anybody, but I can also beat anybody. Like, and the and that mindset took me where I got. But I wish I had that mindset that I don't even see myself losing. Like some people
It would
are
be
like
good.
that. Very
Yeah.
impressive, very very impressive.
It's time for a quick break. There are millions of potential products to buy, so how do you know which ones are worth your hard-earned money? Simple. You go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and explore those that will transform and improve your life. You'll find deals, listener exclusives, and special offers with some great companies. Recommendations are 100% honest and only on items Ian has tried or believes in. The companies showcased will make you a better man in all areas of your life. Simply go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and level up.
I mean, I was really impressed with your mindset, though, when you were discussing, like, I wasn't clicking in this tournament, so I went and started to learn to wrestle. I wasn't clicking here, so I went and started physical therapy, where we kind of worked on really dialing in my biomechanics, my body movement, all these amazing things. And I think that's the great thing about you, is you kind of just look and see a problem, fix it, move in. You kind of, it's the analytical mindset, but also the lust for life that you have. How did taking on wrestling and physical therapy, how did that help your game and develop you as a jiu-jitsu practitioner?
Yeah, so I was always trying to develop myself, and I was also always trying to test the stuff. Like, so for example, I tested training jiu-jitsu as hard as I could 3 times per day, but then I noticed that my body was getting very tired, and then I was not showing up with good performance on each training. So I tested training twice a day and drilling 1 time per day. But then I noticed that I was not the biggest fan of drilling, and I was not enjoying doing that. Then I tested doing judo, I tested doing wrestling, I tested doing physical conditioning. So I was constantly testing stuff and to see like what was the thing that worked the best to me. And the tournaments for me was my test. Like, wait a second, this year I'm doing judo, how was my performance? This year I'm doing wrestling, how is my performance? This year, so I was always like testing in the training,
Yeah.
and watching the results in the tournament. Like that's kind of like and again coincidence, like with business and this and that on the website. A lot of work of the website is what they call the A/B test. So you create one version A, version B, you drive traffic and you see which version wins, and then you maintain that version. Then you create another. So it's fun to see like that there is a lot of similarities of being a professional athlete and business, and there are a lot of things that are very different as well. So
And do you think, like, that because you married into the Gracie family, Do you think that's kind of like the extra pressure to become a jiu-jitsu legend, that your wife's a member of such an elite family? Do you ever think and go, oh, I better be able to beat her relatives? Do you have roles at Christmas time and that sort of thing?
No, not really, because I met her in 2013, and back then I was already like 3 times black belt world champion. So that didn't interfere at all, and I also wouldn't feel pressure because all the Gracie family members, they were always super nice to me since day
Mm.
one, and I was not the one who had the last name Gracie, right? So I never had that pressure, I think like whoever is born in the family and do jiu-jitsu, and if you don't have a strong mindset, I think that can happen, right? Because everybody's expecting that you have
Mm.
to win, because and nobody has to win. Like nobody winning is hard, and it's not because you were born in this or that family that you will win. But anyways, they were always super nice to me, and I was always very nice to them. But I never carried any pressure because that, even though I met my wife much later than
I mean, I'm
them.
a big fan of like BJJ Fanatics. It's a phenomenal site. You've changed so many lives in that. But I love how it sort of links back to what you said earlier about going and finding the right people. And when you and Michael met at a seminar, you were trying to find the right information, and you were traveling around the world. Is that story true, that you created it because you couldn't find a natural source for jiu-jitsu growth and evolution of skills?
That's pretty much the right story, but just a little bit different. So what happened was my business partner Michael, he reached out to me to make a DVD. He was making some DVDs as a side job at that time,
Mhm.
and he wanted to, in reality he wanted to learn jiu-jitsu, like, because he loved Hafger and he loved the over underpass, and then he found myself online doing those techniques, and then he reached out to me and ended up not making the DVD with him because I was already signed with another company pretty much. And then he invited me to go teach a seminar in Boston that he would organize, even though he didn't have a school or anything like that. He would just organize the seminar, and he invited me to sleep on his house to teach him a private lesson next day in the morning. And then that night we pretty much didn't sleep, like we went until like 5 a.m. or so just talking about jiu-jitsu. He was showing me all the business that he used to do in the past and this and that. And
Mm.
then we became great friends. But then we were stuck with that, like we were like, wait a second, look this. In order for me to learn your half guard and your over under, I had to travel you from New York City to Boston to take a private lesson with you, and that was the only way I could learn it from you. So, and then the idea came out, and like, so why don't you create like a website that we can host all the instructors and deliver the best jiu-jitsu techniques to the customers, like, and that was kind of like the idea and how we started.
Because I can't remember exactly where I found it, but it was like opening up and there was like a video game. There were all these treasures sitting there. There was like Gordon Ryan, John Danaher. There was I've got like your fundamental series. I've got your over the BJJ for the older guys over under pressure passing. When I look at it, it's such a wide variety of it. But for somebody who's coming in or somebody who's buying instructionals, how would you advise them to add them to their game? How can we train but also implement instructionals? How should we best use these amazing tools?
Yeah, so even though I sell online courses, I want to be honest, and I think like in jiu-jitsu it's very important that you also practice jiu-jitsu. So
Hmm.
you're not gonna learn jiu-jitsu and become a black belt just by watching, like. So I do think
That's a shame.
you yeah, I do think you have to practice as well. So I think the jiu-jitsu videos become a huge complement to your learning. It's almost like someone teach you live how to do something, and then you go home thinking about it, and how can you study that even deeper. And I think that's where the online courses comes in, like. So you briefly learn on your mind, and you want to go much deeper, then you go online and you learn that instructional. You watch that instructional, and you can go much, much, much deeper, because you can pause, you can go back, you can watch again, you can watch again and again and again, and helps you a lot to memory that and go back next day and train. And by the way, there's a lot of customers that they actually bring the iPad to the mat and they watch the technique and they do right away, or either an iPad or iPhone or whatever. So I think it's a great complement to your learning, like.
Because when I look at how much money I've spent there on gis and anything jiu-jitsu, and it's at that moment, like, I had to take some time out with an injury, and I was like, I need to get back to it. And I'm waiting. I'm going back in a couple of weeks when I can get signed back in. And it's like, I'm itching to go, and I keep watching instructionals. Do you think we should for people who are struggling to train, for example, with kids, etc.? Do you say we should be watching and taking notes? Do you think mental reps? What did you do when you were downtime with surgery, etc.?
Yeah, so at my time there was no internet. Right? I mean, like in 2001 or so was like VHS, right? And I had some VHS, and
those were the good days.
But it was not convenient, you had to. So nowadays I think it's much, much easier, And for example, I think the internet is changing the world about this, because for example, nowadays pretty much any subject that I want to learn, I mix like books and online. So, for example, if I'm trying to learn what we were talking about, A/B tests on the website, I try to read one book and watch one course. If I read one book and watch one course, I'm pretty good on that subject. And I think jiu-jitsu is kind of becoming the same thing. You go to class, your instructor teach you the jiu-jitsu that he teaches, you practice, and then you go home and you watch other courses, either related or not related to what you just learned. And I think you can develop your jiu-jitsu much faster, and kind of like the proof of that, in my opinion, is what happened with the heel hooks, right? Like, I think Dean Lister was one of the first ones to start doing it. And then John Danaher developed a whole system around that. And we were able to partner up with John and sell his instructional videos. And then you go watch a no-gi tournament nowadays, and all you see, it's the John Danaher system for heel hooks, like that. Yeah. Everybody was doing the heel hooks, and they all doing the same way. So I think that's a big proof of how people learn online,
So what would you say to people, like say somebody comes in, they've been watching a couple of your instructionals, they're training, they're feeling good. When you would go and compete at this high level, how did you get yourself mentally ready? Did you have a certain warm up that you would do? Would you go and meditate before a competition? How did you become this elite animal that you become? Because you're so happy and jokey, and then you seem to just become this lion on the mats. How did you flick that switch? Or did you just stay the same Bernardo and just kick ass?
Yeah, so I did psychologist since 2006, and I still do it. And that helped me a lot. And 2006 I was a purple belt, and that helped me a lot to kind of, because many times you go do something very important in life, and because that thing is so important, you ended up not enjoying what you're doing, even though it's what you want to do and what you love doing. But there's so much pressure from yourself that it's not an enjoyable thing, it's just it's almost like a bad thing, because you have so much pressure on yourself that you ended up not enjoying. So the main thing that I learned through a lot of psychological sessions was how to kind of enjoy the present moment that you're living, ignoring all the rest, so. Okay. So many times when I was in the tournament, either in the day of the tournament or in the finals, I would have conversations with myself, telling myself, hey, I dreamed to be here, and I got no injuries. I trained as hard as I could. This is a dream, because how many times you go to a tournament and then in the week of the tournament you get a very bad injury and you show up not 100%, or you get sick, or for some reason you can't compete, or so in the day of the tournament I would try to be very nice to myself, like, hey, I dreamed this day, like this is my dream, and I'm here, and I was able to get here healthy, safe. I trained as hard as I could, and then I would win the first match, I would win the second match, I would go to the finals. Then when I was in the finals, many times I would look to my opponent, I would see him very nervous because it's the finals of the world championship. Maybe he never won and that. And in my mind, I would talk to myself and say, like, hey, this was my dream. Like, I make it to the finals. I made it. I'm in the finals. Now I have one more step. Let's go. And instead of feel pressure about it, I would try to feel happy about it. And I would try to enjoy every single moment of that thing, like, and for example, when I look backwards in my career, in Jiu-Jitsu, the open class tournament happens on Saturday until the finals, and the finals is on Sunday. And that window between Saturday and Sunday was literally like the best moments of my life, like, and you finish that day, you do a bunch of interviews, everybody congratulates you, you did amazing, you were in the finals, there's a bunch of expectation. Then next day you wake up, everybody has a bunch of like, oh, you're in the finals of the open class of the worlds, that's incredible, that's amazing. And then you show up in the gymnasium, everybody's kind of like pointing to you, like, oh, he's in the finals of the open class, Hing against Hing. So I would really try to enjoy those moments, like, it's that have, for example, make it to the open class of the world's open class finals. I made it twice in my life, 2 times in my life. So I'm really glad that I enjoyed those 2 times, like, and I was champion. I won one open class and I lost in the finals the other one. But so that's what I'm saying. Like, you can choose if you're gonna enjoy or if you're gonna feel pressure and hate that moment. So
I love that. I love that way of looking at it. It's like enjoying the moment rather than putting more pressure on yourself. And I mean, I interviewed Stefan Kestin and Rob Bernacki, 2 phenomenal BJJ coaches. And one of the things they were saying was that Jiu-Jitsu is one of the only sports where you don't really coach. If you don't compete, you're not really playing your sport, because you go to training, like you do football, you turn up at training sessions, but then you play the game on Saturday. In Jiu-Jitsu, some people can only roll at their club. They don't actually ever compete outside it. So the roles become like driven by ego, by masculinity, etc. Do you think in that sense that everybody should train and everybody should compete? Do you think we all need to compete to truly understand Jiu-Jitsu?
I think it depends how you are training. Like, so for example, I was training for competition. Like, I was training to try to become the best athlete in the world. So when I was training, I would go as hard as I could, like, and I would try to train more with who had the same mindset that I had, because I didn't want to train with a blue belt, 40 years old, that's training for a hobby and go as hard as I can. Like, I might end up even hurting him. But for example, when I was training with Mateus, with Marcelo, with John Satava, with Marcos Tinoco.
Just small challenges.
I would really pretend that I'm in a tournament, like. But with that being said, if they tap me, that's great. Let's go, like, shake hands and go again, like, and don't get mad because you didn't do well, because that's gonna happen, like, if you train every single row with that type of level, you're gonna tap a lot, like, you're gonna get your guard passed a lot, you're gonna get swapped a lot, you're gonna get taken down a lot. So you gotta be. My thing was always to go as hard as I could, but also be humble to myself and to my training partners. Like, I would never be arrogant or so. I agree with what they said, but I disagree that you should not go. I think you should, if you're training to win the tournaments, you should train really hard.
Yeah.
With but I agree with them that they should not be controlled by that ego and etc.
because it's a real challenge to come in as a guy in the street who thinks I could beat everybody, and then you're getting armbarred by a 15-year-old girl because she knows leverages and
Yeah,
technique,
yeah.
and
Yeah, so I
it,
think the key here is to be able to manage your ego, like and be humble enough to understand that it's you're gonna tap. Some days people will be better than you,
mm.
and
And where do you think your sort of humbleness comes from? Because you've achieved some of the highest of the highs, but you're constantly so friendly to everybody. Like you see some people like almost think they're the best, like and people don't deserve to talk to them. But you always seem so friendly and warm. You're helping everybody. You're encouraging. Where does your humbleness come from?
yeah, like I think, and I think I try to live life how jiu-jitsu is, like, and for example, if you are on the mat, everybody is the same, like on the
Mm.
mat, there is no rich or poor person, there is no race, there is no color, there is no age, everybody is the same, like, and I think like when you engage with someone in the real world, it's a person just like you, like, so
Mm.
why are you gonna undertreat that person, or why are you gonna and so I always try to be nice to everybody, and
So you treat them like you want to be treated, kind of thing.
yeah, and I mean, like, we live in a society, right? Like, and if we were living in the moon and there was nobody around it, but we gotta be nice to people, like we are all sharing this earth real estate here, like, so,
Yeah,
and
I mean,
I try to.
you must have made some amazing friends. Like jiu-jitsu changed my life. I made some of the best friends I've ever had from it. Um, I mean, how did it change you becoming a father, getting married? How having those kind of responsibilities, but also building this juggernaut of an empire while competing, while training, while having your own business. How did it change your eyes to having somebody dependent on you, like your own child? Has it kind of helped you understand where your parents came from, their kind of approach to life, etc.?
Yeah, so I think you're right. I think the family matters a lot. So if you see my both parents, they are exactly how I'm describing here. Like they treat everybody very well. I never saw my dad or my mom being rude or arrogant to anybody, like, so I think that's one. And I think, like, even in the jiu-jitsu world, you can learn from it as well, because
Mm.
if you go to a jiu-jitsu school where the instructor is arrogant and has a big ego, many times most of the students are the same way.
Yeah, I've
Like, they have
noticed.
big ego too. They hate tapping. They get mad when they tap and this and that. And when you go to a school where the instructor is very nice, is polite, treat everybody very well, he doesn't care if you pass his guard or if you tap him, and he doesn't get mad. These students are the same, like, so I think we gotta, whoever is the you if you're, for example, my parents were the leaders of my family, right? And
Mhm.
then I'm like this, my brothers are like this. When you have a jiu-jitsu school and you're the instructor, you're the leader of your group. So these students, so I think that it matters a lot where you came from, and that kind of stuff.
I mean, and how did it change you? Like, were you able to still, like, say somebody's got a new father, how should they sort of change their training approach? Or is it just okay to go to training as much as you can? People coming back from injuries, how do we get over that initial hurdle of having a big life event? Like some people are probably terrified of going back since COVID. Apart from getting an instructional from BJJ Fanatics, what else should they do? How can we make jiu-jitsu a lifestyle rather than just a hobby?
That's a good question. Let me. I think, like, we gotta. Uh, I think we gotta try to use jujitsu in life, kind of. Like, and that's kind of like what I try to do. Uh, I don't. What was exactly the question? Sorry, Ian. Can you?
I mean, it's just like, how would you make, because you seem to live jiu-jitsu, how would you make jiu-jitsu a lifestyle? Like if you were, say you were like me, a overweight Scottish guy trying to get back into jiu-jitsu, how would you make it a lifestyle rather than just a hobby? How would you fall back and live with it, say, if somebody was struggling or had a kid and they were wanting to get back into training but struggling?
That's a good question, and I had never really like thought about this question, like how to make a jiu-jitsu a lifestyle instead of just a hobby. I think like if you do jiu-jitsu, maybe you don't even compete it, but you take it very serious and you want to get better, it's gonna end up becoming your lifestyle. And I'm gonna give you an example. Like if you're taking jiu-jitsu serious and you're gonna train tomorrow, and if you go to a bar and drink all night long tonight, you're not gonna have a good training tomorrow. Like so you gotta make choices here. Like, is your lifestyle to go to the bar and stay drinking until very late at night, or is your lifestyle to wake up early and go train jiu-jitsu? Doesn't
Right.
make sense. And so I think like if you take jiu-jitsu serious, it's gonna affect your nutrition, it's gonna affect your routine, it's gonna affect how you handle things, because in jiu-jitsu we learn a lot about how to be comfortable on uncomfortable positions, right? So if someone is mounting on you and trying to choke you, if you get desperate, it's not gonna help you. And I think you can start bringing that to life as well. Like you're in a bad position in life, getting desperate is not gonna help.
Right.
So how can we get out of that situation? So, but and I bet you mentioned yourself as well, and just by how much you love jiu-jitsu, I bet that jiu-jitsu is your lifestyle, and maybe you don't even know, like, but and
Because when
and
I've interviewed like Josh Settlage, and he's very a big component on weight training as well. Getting fit to win more matches and building endurance and stuff. And I remember speaking to him, and he said he gets up at 3:15 and goes and trains with his friends at 4:15 because that's the time most of them can meet up. So there's always way. We all get the same 24 hours. There's ways around it. Are there habits you've adopted that have made you the man you are today? Do you like journal? Do you meditate? Do you visualize? Do you goal set? Or do you just try to live in the moment and just enjoy life as it comes?
yeah, I'm always trying to improve my everything I'm doing. Like, so I'm always trying to optimize what I'm doing. And for example, you mentioned like waking up 3:15 a.m. At some point, I tried waking up 5 a.m. It was not 3:15.
Horrible.
Didn't work well for me. Like was not like a, because I think sometimes you gotta put in the balance as well that we live once and you gotta enjoy our life, right?
Mhm.
So I was not enjoying going to sleep 9 p.m. Like, or 10 p.m. And I'm for and I tested as well. If I sleep only 5 or 6 hours per night, next day I don't have a good day. Like I'm not productive. I'm tired. My thinking is not great. I'm kind of in a bad mood. So I need like 7 to 8 hours of sleep. So going to sleep 9 p.m. and waking up 5 a.m. I didn't enjoy. Like was not for me. I really respect who does it, and if it works for whoever it is, it's
Yeah.
great. And I think we should try and test stuff and question ourselves if it was a good choice or not a good choice. So, and I think sometimes I even over question myself, because I'm always questioning myself everything. Am I doing the right thing? And I'm doing the wrong thing? And was it good or was it bad? And I'm constantly trying to make the right decisions. Like, okay, I think the best time for me to wake up is like 7, and I go to sleep at 11:30. My day is productive. I spend time with my wife, with my daughter. I have time at night to read, and so I'm always experimenting stuff
Mhm.
and questioning what was the best way to be productive and to enjoy as well. Like,
I suppose that comes from your analytical mindset as well. You create like the A/B testing. You're finding out what works, what doesn't work, and you know.
many times what works for you doesn't work for me. What works for me doesn't work for you. So
Mhm.
there is no formula. Like, and
Oh no, it's a great way of looking at it. I mean, I love how just even like how humble you are, just sort of saying, "Find what works for you." You know, don't always follow me, and
Yeah,
it's.
don't follow what I'm saying.
I love the way you look at it because you're constantly learning, you're constantly growing. But how would you want jiu-jitsu to change? How would to go forward to make it like an Olympic sport, to make it more like to get more and more people into this amazing sport? How would you change the way it's coached? Would you change the way it's structured? Say you could wave a wand just now. What would you do to
Yeah, so
jiu-jitsu?
I think that's happening naturally, but the change, which is not like a change, but what I would like to see in jiu-jitsu is more people exposed to good jiu-jitsu.
Mm.
Like, and when I mean good jiu-jitsu, I'm not talking about like the best technique. I'm talking about like one environment that it's welcoming for that person. Like, so I'm gonna give you an example. Like many years ago, 20 years ago, you would start jiu-jitsu, and in the first day, the instructor would put you to row with that crazy tough blue belt, and that
Yep.
blue belt would beat crap of you. And next day, you quit jiu-jitsu and you hate it, and you never do that again. So it was not a good experience. Like, I think now we are finding a point where most of the jiu-jitsu schools understand that, hey, in order for this person to fall in love with jiu-jitsu, we gotta give this person a good experience. So let's not put them to row in the first class against that crazy tough guy. And I think everybody's becoming more educated, and this is making jiu-jitsu grow like crazy, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I do think and believe that is the fastest growing sport in the world. And I think you can just see just like last week, I was watching an interview between Joe Rogan and Mark Zuckerberg, and they were both discussing this. How Mark Zuckerberg was saying like, how had I never found this in my life? I only found it right now. Like, and then he was saying that everybody he introduced to jiu-jitsu is a 100% conversion rate on enjoying jiu-jitsu. Like he did not have one person yet that started doing jiu-jitsu and told him that, oh, I didn't like it, it's not for me. So I believe that it's the best sport in the world. Like you can do on any age, you learn how to defend yourself, you improve your thinking, you improve your health, and it's amazing. Like
It's hard to explain why it's one of the best sports in the world, but until you're doing it, and then you just get the bug, and that's it. You're stuck in. I mean, I can't believe we're in an hour already. I would love to do another one to go into the business side of things and other aspects, but until I can get you back on, I thank you so much for your time. It truly is I won't even say the phrase, but what do you think of that being on T-shirts, your catchphrase, everybody loving that? What do you like? What do you think about that being so popular with people?
Yeah, so I mean, like, my goal. Some people, their goal in life is to become famous. Like that was never my goal or my dream. Like my goal was always to do something that I feel like fulfilled, and that I'm delivering value to people. Like, and so I think like as a professional athlete, was more like a Bernardo thing. Like was more like this is my dream. It was like almost like a selfish type of goal. And nowadays with BJJ Fanatics, I really feel myself very fulfilled because I really feel that we're delivering value to customers and to instructors. Like I feel like we're not doing this just for ourselves anymore. Like now, this is for the jiu-jitsu community. And it's very grateful when you do something that you see that people appreciate it. Like that you're not being tricky, you're not being dishonest, you're just doing your best, and people are appreciating, and you keep going, and you do more and more and more. So it and then ended up becoming popular in the jiu-jitsu world because that. So it feels good to be famous on that way. But it was never my goal to become the Instagram famous person, like
I mean, that's like me. I wanted to create a podcast so I could have somebody like you say it was a huge honor to come on. But it's like I love how that's become like synonymous with jiu-jitsu. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows you. Everybody adores you. And you're giving back to so many people. You're changing lives. You're transforming jiu-jitsu from this small kind of niche sport into this global phenomenon. But what would you want people to take from this interview? What would you like them to remember or to go and do? What message would you want to give to people listening?
That's a good question as well. 5 seconds answer here. I would almost give back to jiu-jitsu. I would almost say believing in jiu-jitsu. I truly believe that it's the best sport in the world, and the whole jiu-jitsu philosophy as well that we were talking here in the interview. How much it teaches us about life. About being comfortable on uncomfortable positions. About how much it helps our health, how much it helps ourselves socializing and creating a network of friends, of good people. So I would almost say believe in jiu-jitsu. If you're doing jiu-jitsu, you're doing a good thing. And it's gonna be good for yourself, for your health, I think it's just good things.
Love it. And how can people keep in touch with you? How can we follow along? How can we find the instructionals? How can we find about the jiu-jitsu camp that's coming up? How do you want us to get involved and follow along and connect with you on social media and those sorts of things?
Yeah, so our website is BJJFanatics.com. And on social media, my name is Bernardo Faria, right? So on YouTube is Bernardo Faria BJJ Fanatics. On Instagram is Bernardo Faria. And we are constantly putting out content from a lot of great content as well on the social media. And we also have an Instagram and YouTube channel for BJJ Fanatics. So make sure to follow us, and you're going to get updated on everything that's going on. And I think that's about it. And Ian, thanks so much. It was a huge honor for me to do this interview with you. You had great questions, and I really enjoyed the time here.
Well, that's it for another week. And thank you for listening. It's now time to take what you've learned and use it to develop and enhance your life with the key points mentioned. Listen, try it, embrace it, use it, and crush it. Now's your time to hit that next level in your life. If you liked this episode, then please leave a comment on the show notes or a review of the show on your podcast platform. Everything helps evolve the show. Until next week, keep seeking the next level in your life.